So, hey guys, you just heard a part of the amazing soundtrack to the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe film, Guardians of the Galaxy. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, you guys, I was looking forward to this film for a very long time. It was one of my most anticipated films of the year for those who saw, my top 10 list of films I was looking forward to the most in 2014. This film and November's Interstellar by Christopher Nolan were in the top two, and I was very happy with what I got with this film. I'll obviously share in a few minutes here what I was a little bit bummed about, but for the most part, Guardians of the Galaxy was very worthwhile. One of the better films probably that came out this year. Not the number one best, but very, very well done. It's very much worth your time and money to see this. So for Guardians of the Galaxy, you guys, I know it's a very lesser known comic of Marvel's. So I really want to make sure that you understand the synopsis before I go any further with this review here for you today. So Guardians of the Galaxy, it's about a guy named Peter Quill. He goes by the name Star Lord up in outer space, and he's looking for this mystical orb that contains a very strong power that will give you, very strong abilities in the universe. And he wants to keep it out of the wrong hands. He um, he wants to get it out of the hands of this guy named Ronan the Accuser, and he is connected to a guy named Thanos. For those who saw the Avengers, for the end credit sequence of that, and by basically collecting this and several other elements, Thanos could have something called the Infinity Gauntlet, which can give him basically power to control the universe. So basically, Star Lord wants to get this out of Ronan's hands. While in the process, he meets up with a girl named Gamora, or Gamora, if you want to call her that, played by Zoe Saldana. Chris Pratt plays Star Lord, by the way. And Gamora is connected with Thanos. She is they explain it in the movie, but she is, on a very technical level, a stepdaughter of Thanos. And he also meets up with a character named Rocket Raccoon, played by Bradley Cooper. They briefly kind of talk about how Rocket is the way he is in this movie as well. And there's also a character named Groot, which is basically a living tree, who's voiced by Vin Diesel in this. And there's also Dave Bautista's character named Drax the Destroyer, and he's kind of out to kill both Ronan and Thanos. They ruined his life. They killed off his family, his wife, and his kids. And he's gained powers in the universe somehow. And so now he wants to get back at both Ronan and Thanos. And throughout the course of the film, through the help of this team that he eventually forms with this group of heroes, you can call it, he kind of learns that basically revenge isn't everything, that once revenge is over with, there's still kind of a part of you that doesn't feel quite good inside about what just happened. So basically, this is about Drax kind of figuring out what he's going to do with his life, how he can kind of find himself again, and things like that. So it's basically the main, like, the bare bone plot, I guess I could really say, is basically this group of heroes, like I was talking about: Star-Lord, Gamora, um, Drax, Rocket, Groot. I'm sorry if I left out one or two of them. They're all out to basically get this orb and put it into the right hands so that the wrong hands doesn't possess it in outer space. So I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, you guys. There's the Guardians themselves were perfect. I loved all those characters. Um, but I'll get to in just a second here what I really, really liked about the film, and some things that happened in it that I was either slightly bummed about, like either Marvel hyped it up a little bit too much, or just something that the film could have done to just make it better, make it an even better experience. So for positives and negatives of Guardians of the Galaxy, Gamora, Drax the Destroyer, and Yondu, who's a character played by Michael Rooker. For those who don't know who he is, Michael Rooker was in Cliffhanger, and he was also in Days of Thunder. Gamora, very good character. I really like Zoe Saldana as an actress. I really liked her in Avatar, and I liked her in Star Trek Into Darkness. Very good character she plays once again here. She's very good at playing the badass chick, and she's very good at it. She's also not too bad to look at. She's a very attractive woman. But yeah, Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana, very good role. I really like her backstory. I like how she's connected with Thanos. She doesn't like what he does. and she kind of wants to go on her own path. I really like that aspect about her, and she's just a really neat character to follow throughout the movie. I like her sense of trust. I like how she can trust people, but to an extent. I really like that. Drax the Destroyer. Once I kind of talked about him earlier. You know, he's this guy out for revenge, but he's also trying to figure out himself. He doesn't really quite know who he is yet, and you know he's learning through this team and through himself and through this experience they have in outer space that you know revenge isn't everything. That you know you got to have fun every once in a while. You got to have family. You got to have friends. You got to have people you can trust, people you can turn to. He learns this throughout the course of the film, and I really like that about Drax. And Dave Bautista, I gotta tell you, for a wrestler turned actor, this is a very good first role for him, or at least the first role I've at least experienced him in a movie. Very, very good job. I really hope Dave Bautista does more roles like this, you know, like big action films with comedic elements to it. He's kind of like The Rock, you know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson does a lot of that now too. I think that would work really well for an acting career for Dave Bautista if he chooses to pursue acting further. I really like this Drax the Destroyer character that he plays. And then back to Michael Rooker. I think that's how you say Rooker. You know, the guy from Cliffhanger. He plays a guy named Yondu in this. From what I know, Yondu I think is one of the first Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. Even though in the movie they don't really go into that or they don't like reference that or anything. But yeah, the character of Yondu, you know, he has a connection to Star Lord. He kind of allowed Star Lord onto the ship and things like that. Um, Really like the character. I really like how he kind of has this, boy, you are my ship now, and you know all that kind of talk. He kind of sounds like a grindhouse character for those who've seen you know grindhouse exploitation films. But I'm going on too far here. Um, I like the masterful visual effects. Great looking film. James Gunn's direction in this was great. James Gunn was a very good director. Marvel really chose a good director here. That he has that weird style. You know, it fits very well you know, weird and visually strong kind of approach. James Gunn, once again, good choice for that. I love the musical score and soundtrack to this movie. I even played a little bit of it here in my opening of the video of a song that keeps showing up throughout the movie. Yeah, just a really good musical score, a good soundtrack. Good job for whoever who worked on the soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy. It really was very good. I also like the connections this film had to the Avengers. Make sure you see the Avengers before seeing this film, specifically the end credit scene, because both Death and Thanos play a pretty big part in this film, and it definitely you know connects to the Marvel universe the best with those scenes that deal with those two characters basically. Um, so tons of connections to the Avengers. I can definitely see how this could potentially um, you know impact future Marvel films, specifically the outer space portions of them. I could see Thor 3 kind of playing off this film a little bit too, to be honest. I like the fun, campy sci-fi B-list vibe the film has. It definitely has a you know like a sci-fi convention that not a lot of people know about kind of thing, but you know a lot of people dress up really well for it. It has that kind of vibe to it. It has definitely that grindhouse 3 o'clock in the morning science fiction vibe to it as well. I really like that vibe. I really like how you know James Gunn managed to make that work in a big budget film environment. I thought that was kind of cool. Definitely kind of had a Star Wars vibe to it as well. The negatives I had for Guardians of the Galaxy is I thought Act 1 of the movie was a little bit too slow. It felt like it had a little bit of a sluggish pace, but as soon as the Guardians formed, as soon as they were officially the Guardians of the Galaxy, the film did fine. It had a great pacing. By Act 2, everything was fine. But for some odd reason, Act 1 just felt a little bit too slow. So I don't know if James Gunn just really wanted to set things up at a really slow pace and then take off. But I don't know. As soon as the Guardians formed, it was fine. But before they formed, it was a very slow pace, I thought. I thought the humor could have been on a little bit of a bigger scale. It was a great sense of humor, but there was some jokes that fell flat and kind of making the film not feel as big as it wants to be. So humor-wise, I really liked what they did, but I think it could have been bigger in a bigger scale of the word. I also thought more could have been done with the character of the Collector. For those who saw Thor 2 The Dark World, they really made him look like he was going to be this big, significant character, but they ended up not doing a lot with him. And also, they have Benicio del Toro playing him. You know, they got this big name actor showing up for this big project, and they don't really get to do a lot with him. He probably only has like 7 or 8 minutes of screen time in this. Too important of a character to get so little screen time, so I was kind of bummed about that. I was really hoping for a good depiction of the Collector in this movie. It was a good, I guess, depiction of him, but we needed more time spent with him, I thought. I also thought we needed more time spent with Thanos. Once again, we get a big name actor like Josh Brolin. Only gets about 7 or 8 minutes of screen time in this, and he's connected to Gamora, who's one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that character alone should have been a huge, huge bigger role for a character like Gamora since she's so connected with Thanos. Um, I also thought there was some overall loose ends with the film, specifically with Star Lord's dad. They briefly touch upon it, but they don't really quite go into enough detail to really give us enough closure of that. They also don't go into enough detail as to why Star Lord went to space and not another human from Earth. Star Lord, you'll find out right away, it was just kind of randomly picked from Earth and brought up into space. And, there's all these years that go by, and then we see him as an adult. And we really don't quite know what happens in all those years. So I would have liked to have seen, more details exactly as to what happened with Star Lord there. I'm hoping a sequel covers this. I'm hoping an Avengers 2 or Avengers 3 covers this. But unfortunately, the film doesn't give us quite enough details on those kind of things. So a little bit too many loose ends here with this movie. But overall, guys, I give Guardians of the Galaxy a 9 out of 10. It really is a well done film. One of the better films I've seen this year, but like I said, not quite. I don't see this being my top 5 best of the year once I make a top 10 list for that. But it is very good. I was very happy with what I got. I really hope we get a sequel like James Gunn has promised us. And I really hope to see more loose ends tied up in a sequel or an Avengers 2 or an Avengers 3 like I was talking about. So Guardians of the Galaxy, 9 out of 10 for me. Really well done film. If you like Marvel films, if you like science fiction films, give Guardians of the Galaxy a try. It really is worth your time.